All right, Comm 101, quick tips. This is the sixth way you can use to set up the order of your speech when you are playing with different possible organizational patterns. Um, and again, some of these depend on what your topic is and what your intent is and how you want to present it. But you can see there's a lot of different ways you can go. Now, this last one is real simple: comparative order. You discuss the similarities and the differences between two things. It's great for informative speeches if you were trying to, for example, I had a student in my Comm 104 workplace communication class. They have to do an informative speech, and he was an automotive student. And so he gave a comparative order speech where he compared the turbocharger versus the supercharger in a car engine. And at the time, I had owned a turbo and I had a car with a supercharger in it at the time. And I knew from driving them what if you step down on a turbocharger and it takes a minute for it to wind up and take off. And with a supercharger, when you step onto it, poof, you're going. And I didn't really understand all the stuff behind it. And he did a comparative order speech where he showed you how a turbo worked and how a supercharger worked and what the pros and cons for both were. And it was an incredibly informative speech. It was extremely interesting the way he presented it. Since I had owned both kinds of cars, I guess that made me ideal audience for it. But another way to do it is to look at Apple computers versus the way Microsoft computers, or the Apple operating system versus the Microsoft operating system. They're somewhat relatable, but they're also very different. Having worked in both, I'm a huge Apple user at home. In fact, I'm doing this on an Apple computer right now, but at school we have Dells, which run on Microsoft. And you can use a comparative order to compare the two operating systems, or to compare the two kinds of computers, or cars, or there's all kinds of ways to use comparative order, and you compare one to the other. Now, obviously, you can also use this for persuasive speeches. You can say, okay, this is one thing, but I want you to go with this over here. Let me explain why this is better than this. You're still looking at comparative order, and it's another way to bring about information than spatial or topical or chronological or one of the other patterns out there. And it gives you a different perspective to look at things and say, if I do this, I can present it from this point of view and it might make it more interesting to my audience. And that's what we're after. So comparative order is the sixth way of setting up a speech. Very worth thinking about how you want to do it. Talk to you later.